All right, guys, what is up? Tom Wedding back here again with another valuable live stream. Here today, I have Adam with me. He's going to share some killer stuff on the importance of researching, which I think a lot of people miss over, especially in the agency space, is just the simple thing of researching your niche and getting clear on your target market. So he's going to share a really cool method and what he's been doing. That's been, man, honestly, some really insane stuff. I'm excited for this one. We were meant to catch up last week and do this, but a little bit delayed, but we're here now, and I appreciate you jumping on, Adam.
Cheers, man. It's good to be here. Hope to finally catch up. Apologize for last week. We've been busy, but yeah, man, it's good to finally get on for sure.
Awesome. Cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this PDOCS method? I know you've been talking about this in your group and kind of everywhere you're doing this and doing a big launch for that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what that kind of process looks like in terms of fitting into research?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, a lot of what we did as an agency was we would deal with venture capital, and a lot of that was with startups. And some startups wanted to really keep things lean, and they didn't want to spend like crazy amounts of money on a video or like have to spend a lot on ads. So what we did to dominate the Facebook auction and the Google auctions was we spun up research teams run by virtual assistants that would identify the biggest PDOCS, which stands for problems, desires, obstacles, common beliefs, and steroids. And I'll explain each one. Within like forums, competitors, and we'll just identify one problem and then test it. So it's just this system of like identifying the biggest problems, testing it to see if it had, if it could make sales, and then turning it into copy. So doing that, we're able to like dominate auctions and spend less on ads. So it's pretty much just a system we have of being able to win based on ideas instead of just having, it's a system, not a skill.
Yeah, super important. Hey, because I mean, there's a lot of noise in the marketplace, right? And like you're saying, even to just get your auction price down, like research is so vital to that because if you can come in from different angles, you can come in from different, targeting different pain points, different, objections. There's so many different stuff you can do once you have that research down pat. And the fact that you've been able to do that with virtual assistants, I find really cool. So tell me a little bit more about that and how you've got virtual assistants and allowed them to do the research for you. So you're not having to waste countless hours diving into all these things and doing customer research and all that stuff. Because I think that's really interesting because a lot of people look at research as such a time consuming, boring task. And that's most of the time why people miss it, right? And it's such an important step. So if you could talk a little bit about how the virtual assistants kind of tie into that, I think that'd be really valuable.
Yeah, so the biggest thing was teaching virtual assistants PDOCS. So really it was just so you have problems, which is emotional, physical. You have desire, physical. That in Amazon, looking at like, the 3-star reviews. The 3-star reviews are often people that like the product, but there's something they didn't like about it. Then you look at common beliefs, and that's, a common belief is like a preconceived idea that somebody has about something. So like they see a product like a supplement and they're like, yeah, well, all supplements don't really work because it's all just like a scam. Or they think that like, all supplements taste gross because if it tasted good, it wouldn't be healthy for you. Then you have steroids, and steroids is just how you get their attention. So that was actually, we used to call it attention drivers. And then a good friend of mine, Andrew, he basically he just said like call it steroid. But it's basically this idea of like something that grabs attention. So it's an influencer or it's a book that's closely related to that subject. So a steroid for funnels would be Russell Brunson. So if I wrote an ad and I mentioned Russell Brunson, I would attract a certain type of person that knew who he was, and it would be like an attention driver. So yeah, it's just teaching each one of those, and then we would basically create spreadsheets and then teach virtual assistants to go out. And it was kind of like, I think the biggest thing is breaking down copywriting and breaking down like persuasion, advertising, and things like that into a very systematic way, because a lot of it is just patterns. And once you understand the patterns, it goes from writing copy to building Lego. So you just teach virtual assistants to understand the patterns and the structures. and then they can go out and they can just identify PDOCS out of anything. You just give them competitor websites, you give them forums. We have like a whole stack. I'll make sure I give it to you so you can give it to everybody of how to do it. But yeah, doing that, they just extract all the PDOCS out, and then we just systematically test them. And we, that's a system as well, which is plugged in. So it's like, we call it the feedback loop. And then from there, it's just finding the winners, identifying the losers, and then the winners you scale, and the losers you learn from, and you slowly, just over time, triangulate exactly what your customer wants. Actually, it's not even slowly. It takes like a few weeks to really get it going.
Yeah, that's killer. That is killer. Man, it just makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense to do things that way, because again, you're coming in from different angles and testing different points because you want to find the winners. Like, again, a lot of people are just doing one straight line thing, the same thing, especially with agency owners. Just let's figure out like agency owners and prospecting for a second. Like, agency owners, when they're prospecting, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Hey, do you want more leads? Hey, do you want to run Facebook ads? Hey, do you want more appointments in your calendar? Like, it's the same stuff being splurted across the whole marketplace by everyone. And they say it's a numbers game, but it's not a numbers game. It's a matter of getting the right message to market, right? And you can't do that without coming in from different angles and actually finding out what each individual niche wants, right? For example, a real estate agent wants more buyer and seller leads. They don't want just leads in general. They want more buyer and seller leads. So you need to use that language in your messaging, in your prospecting, right? So I think it's really important to, again, find the PDOCS, right? Of each niche that you're going after, and how that ties into you reaching out to them and getting your outreach done. Because again, this isn't just for ads. Like, I see this working for everything. Like, I know you're mainly doing it to run ads and at scale. But I think this works for everything, not just like ads, but also outreach and, organic channels as well. Because again, it all comes down to the research of how well do you know your market to actually target them well enough and get the message out there that is actually going to resonate with them. So, man, that's killer. Yeah, if you have like some of those documents that we can share in this group, that would be killer. I know this is going to be turned into a podcast as well. So those people probably won't have access to it, but more incentive to join the group, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be cool. If we could have those documents, because yeah, that pretty much, it makes a lot of sense. Do you have anything else to kind of say about the PDOCS and how that kind of fits into anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it definitely does work for it's really it's not like in a box to advertising on Facebook or anything like that. But what it's really about is it's really simple. It's just, I think how we really came about this process was when I started my first company. I was 21, and it was I think a post about it was a pretty bad company. Like, it was like, I didn't really know much about business. My team was like pretty lousy. But what I did was, we had no money, anything like that. But I went through competitors and I went through forums, and at the time I didn't call it PDOCS. I just called it like a cluster analysis, something like that. And I went through and identified all the things that people liked, and identified like my mentor, who used to be the creative director for Leo Burnett. He taught me, it's all about fears, desires, common beliefs, things like that. Like, he gave me this acronym. So I'd pull that out, and then I would just take one point, see what people mentioned, find one problem, and then just focus on that. So that's what I did for that company. Is I just took one problem out of the PDOCS, and I focused and built an offer around it. And I mean, like, in 6 months, we scaled that to like 6 figures a month. And we had, like, to this day, I still get like 20 to 30 leads just from the sales page that I built from that. And that was entirely organic. Like, that was purely just SEO. So yeah, I think there's this huge thing. I think a lot of people overcomplicate it, kind just looking in forums, looking at overhearing conversations that people want, identifying what that overall idea is, and then building an MVP around that idea, which stands for like minimum viable product. So something that is quickly produced, that you can just quickly see if it's going to work, and then proving that, and then building from it. That's honestly how you should do any offer. I see so many people like overthinking it and trying to figure out what their ideal offer is and everything like that, when really just, you look at those PDOCS, you figure out what you're going to solve, and then focus on one pain point, and, build an MVP. So, like, before you even have your service up, get a landing page going, see who converts, and then start building on it. So that's whole method of it. And then I guess we carried that onto a mass scale to be able to scale companies, because, you know, like we have like, we had some cases where we were able to like beat a like $250,000 high production video of one of our clients, and we just beat it by like a crappy video we made on Fiverr. And the idea behind that is not to like have bad creative. I think everyone should have good creative. I don't want people to be slack, but behind that is the idea, and like whether you hit that cognitive bias or that heuristic that the customer is looking for depends whether you get the sale or not. So because we knew exactly what our customer wanted and created a video around that, you know, we didn't have to spend high production on a video. We're able to just get the sale because we're able to speak directly to them. So that's what it's about. It's just about, you know, identifying in a systematic way of identifying like the deepest problems and fears of the customer, and being able to build advertising around it.
That's really interesting you brought that up, actually, because like you see it in the ClickFunnels group, especially like people posting like their funnels that are converting super well, and half the time they're like the crappiest funnels, like they just look totally trash. And it's like the reason why they're converting is because they know their market and they know exactly how to position themselves to get in front of that market. So I think it's super interesting. I'm glad you shared this, man. Like this is some really killer stuff that a lot of people aren't going to pay attention to, and they're going to ignore this and they're going to miss out, because this is the one single thing that can really just help you scale dramatically, like in your ads, in your organic outreach, in anything. Like this one thing I think a lot of people miss in their businesses. Like doesn't matter what business you're starting, I feel like this one thing is like needed. It's essential to actually scaling a profitable and highly, you know, successful business. So man, I appreciate
Oh yeah.
your
Well, I
yes.
think a huge thing about it is like systems beat skill every time. You know, like we're doing a pilot at the moment. We're having some of the best copywriters on the planet from different agencies, like try to compete against the system. You know, and the system's beating every time purely because, you know, like anybody can go out there, take that SOP that I showed you, build their own PDOCS team of like 2-3 VAs, which should, you know, be low cost, and you could take on any agency out there, because if you're able to at mass scale identify the deepest PDOCS of the customer and be able to like test it, validate it, and then build off it, like you just like no one can really touch you on that, because it doesn't matter how good the video is, it doesn't matter how, you know, talented the writer is. If you're able to identify those pain points faster on a level that no one else can really get to, because it's an automated and systematic process, that's just how you like win the auction. I think like we've tested it many times, and I mean, like I think the real thing was like we had we had our VAs write a lot of our ads, and I think in under or just over a year for one of our clients, just like one of our real estate clients, we've done over $70 million in revenue. And that was written by virtual assistants, you know, and that wasn't, we didn't like go, this was like high ticket real estate. We didn't go into like the apartment and film it. We didn't, like you should do that. That would have made it way better, but we didn't do that. We didn't have like any crazy snapshots on high level. We didn't even use high level. I mean, I don't know if that's like blasphemy if I can say that. We didn't do any of that stuff. All we did was PDOCS. We went through, we identified a whole bunch of pain points that we knew people would really, really focus around, a few common beliefs that we knew. We ran ads, and that would allowed us to actually get more qualified leads than the competitor and spend less. So it really can just be used for anything. We've done it for outreach as well, and organic outreach, and we were doing like 8 appointments a day, and that was just teaching 2 VAs how to use it.
Damn, that's crazy. Man, that is insane. The fact that like you can scale this with virtual assistants is just like that. Man, I'm sure a lot of people are like wetting their pants right now over just thinking about having virtual assistants like do their outreach, and 8 booked appointments a day. Like that's even more insane, you know, like the fact that with by systemizing your research approach, like you can literally have something like that where virtual assistants can do it. Like of all people, virtual assistants, not to say anything bad about them, but like, you know, most of the time virtual assistants aren't like highly skilled people, and you know, for them to be able to understand it just shows you how simplistic that this stuff can be, you know. So that's killer, dude. That is killer.
Yeah, well, it's crazy, man. I think you know, like I think it's just breaking it down to like a very scientific system. And I think that there was actually like a presentation that it was one of the founders from a thing called Swiped, which is like a big swipe files archive for copywriters. And I'll find the presentation, but he basically talked about how copywriting is like music. And he said like everything follows one beat, or everything follows just like a set amount of beats. So like in music these days, like every song has that same like rhythm or that same beat. And that's what people are used to. And then they hear that beat and they're like, oh yeah, cool. So what you do is if you can go into competitors' copy and you can find, I guess what we call like the beat, which we call the structure. If you can find the beat in things, you can replicate it and you can use that over and over and over. So it's really about seeing copywriting and persuasion and advertising as a whole, seeing it as what it is. It's like, you understand the patterns in certain things. And once you identify those patterns, you can build a system that scales to, well, it has an infinite scale, really, because you can just hire more people, refine the system. And it will just make you untouchable in that space, because I think there's 3 ways to really scale nowadays. Like say we're talking about ecom, or just say we're talking about like winning the auction on Facebook, right? Or like lead gen. Let's say we're in a very competitive niche. Like I think it was this time last year, I was actually living in LA because we were doing a hyper competitive niche in the financial space. And our task was to grow this company over 100 million, right? And what we did was, we spun up a PDOCS team. We tested a bunch of angles. We found one real angle that was just crushing it. And then we do what's called emotional scaling, where like, I think a lot of people, they'll find like one angle and then they'll just focus on that. But there's different frames that you can use to be able to look at it, and that changes it completely. So from there, we're able to come up with like, 50 new ideas, and then we're able to scale that. So it's really like limitless what you can do once you have that team built out, and it doesn't take a lot of work to build it out either.
That is sick, man. That is sick. So in terms of like, I guess like I always like asking the same question as to anyone I have on these lives and in these interviews, is like, if you were to say like the 3 most actionable steps for implementing PDOCS or just research in general, like what would those things be? Like apart from if you were sharing documents and all that, like apart from that stuff, like what would 3 actionable steps you would say is the most important thing to do?
Yeah. So I mean, I'll give you the SOP so you can see exactly what to do. The first thing would be to understand the pattern that ads have, and that will show you the pattern. The next thing would be to go into Facebook and click on like that column that says save, and then just create a folder and call it swipe files, and then start going through, and every single ad you see, just save it and then start analyzing of why it worked. And it will take a few days, but like you'll start to just see every ad, every post, every piece of persuasion follows this same pattern. So do that. And then what happens is, you start to it's like you wake up from the Matrix. It becomes almost annoying because every ad you see, you know exactly what they did. Then what you do is, I guess the next, step 1 is to actually go for the document. Step 2 is to be able to analyze the ads. Step 3 is to turn it into a system. So teach a virtual assistant to be able to do that. And then when they analyze all your competitors' ads, you can just take competitors' ads and you can reverse engineer it and rebuild it, and then go after the same audience for a different niche. And there's some crazy stuff you can do there. So that'll be the 3 things really, is just understand how it works, practice it. So, create a little swipe file bank in your Facebook. And what will happen is like every single ad that you click on for your competitor, you get the retargeting ads as well. And, go onto their landing page, have a look at their copy, things like that. Just so you can be pixel. And then Facebook will just start sending you more and more and more and more and more of that stuff. And then it will honestly just become part of your browsing habits to analyze ads. And after a while, you have it becomes such a second nature to be able to rewrite and deconstruct ads, that you'll be able to like optimize or rewrite, create any ad in existence, which is like a big claim to make. But really, it's like everything follows a similar pattern. You know what I mean? It's just remixes different ads. Like I don't think there's a single ad out there that I've seen that is like entirely different, where it's like nothing that anyone's thought of before. And I guess another one would be actually just number 4 would be get a book called Great Leads by Michael Masterson. Fantastic book. Really just breaks down a lot of stuff about sophistication, which is like the most important thing you need to know. So that's a huge one. And it's like, takes like an afternoon to read it. Like it's a very little book, but it's like probably one of the most powerful books in advertising, I would say.
Yeah, sweet. What was that book name again?
It was called Great Leads by Michael Masterson.
Great Leads. Cool. Yeah, that's sweet, man. That's cool. Very actionable 4 steps. I like it. Because that's where it starts, man. That's where it starts, is just taking action on this stuff. Like, it's all great in theory and stuff, but until you actually take action on it, you're not going to see any results. You're not going to see it in action. So yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Well, we're pretty much happy with wrapping it up here, unless you have anything else extra to say, man.
Oh man, there's always extra to say, but I think I'm good.
That's all good. Yeah. If you want to say some extra stuff, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're good. What I'll do is I'll post that. I'll give you that doc so everyone can go through it. Go through it. You know, like, it really is the entire SOP of how you build out that system. A lot of people like, why'd you give it for free? And I think, like, just, you know, we wanted to add as much value as possible in a way that people weren't used to. So there's no catch or anything. Go through it, check it out. I will say, like, don't just get it and throw it to a VA. I think a lot of people think like they'll just buy resources and send it to their VA. Go through it, get an understanding for yourself, and then go through it with your virtual assistant. Then that's how you can really start the system going. So that, I guess, is what I would say, is understanding yourself, then go through it with your VA. Don't do it the other way around, because I think, you know, a lot of people abuse the power of having like virtual assistants and having assistants and things like that. You know, where like a lot of people, I think, and this is, I guess, is the last thing I say, a lot of people think like virtual assistants, they're like, oh, they don't work, or, you know, this person's like, they're stupid or something like that. But like, they're actually like such smart, lovely people over in the Philippines. And, you know, we've taught 500 virtual assistants how to do this, and they've written copy. Like, a team that we brought in 3 weeks ago, training through the content, has already beaten the control version of our client, who's, you know, been advertising for like 10 years or so. So really, it's just about having that system. So going through, understanding yourself, and then teaching it to your VA so that, you know, you can both understand together, I think is a big thing. Don't just throw at them and hope it's going to work, because it never works like that. You gotta have to understand it yourself, and then work on it with a virtual assistant, and then outsource it to somebody else.
Yeah, sweet. Totally agree with that. Got to learn a bit yourself before you outsource all day. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here. It's been really insightful. Right. And it's been, yeah, I'm sure people gain value from this, and I'm sure they will if they go through the documents. But again, like you said, they got to take these things as valuable things. Like, just because they're given away for free, like, this is insane value. Like, I've gone through some of those documents, man, and that's like some insane stuff that could easily have like a course on. So yeah, like, we'll share these documents in the group. If you're in the group, if you're watching this on the podcast, jump into the group so you can grab those documents. And yeah, man, I appreciate you jumping on.
Sweet, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All good. I'll catch you later.
All right. Thanks, man.